All right. Welcome to our first ever, or my first ever live stream. I tried this once a few years ago using StreamYard and I failed miserably at it. Hopefully it's going to work out better this time, especially because I've got a guest, a very important guest, Zbyshek Pawlak, who I knew from years ago working in Kazakhstan. So I'm going to tell you more about him in a little while. My name's Tim Black. I live in Bella Vista, Arkansas. Moved here recently from Oregon, just south of Portland, in a town called Newburgh in the wonderful wine country of Yamhill County. And our children moved over here first, taking our grandkids with them. It's funny how they do that. And we followed them over. And I originally, man, I came kicking and screaming. I just did not want to leave the West Coast. But, you know, what do you do when you're getting older? Do you just stay in a beautiful place and die alone, or do you follow your family? So we opted to do that. That's making a very long story short. And here we are. And, you know, I have to tell you, honestly, I'm discovering so many wonderful things about living here. First of all, the people are great. We love the community. We live in kind of a retirement. Originally, it was created as a retirement community, but it's got like, 7 lakes and 5 golf courses. And one of them I discovered this week was free with my activity card. So, and there's like a gun range and all kinds of things you can do with this activity card it's not too expensive. Anyway, I thought I would just use this first part of the time before Zbyszek comes on board and just sing some songs. And, you know, if you're watching, it would be great if you somehow figured out how to do the chat and just said something like, "You're coming through loud and clear," or something like that, just so I know I'm not whistling Dixie. I guess, I don't know if I can whistle. I guess I can whistle Dixie because I am in the South after all. But, you know, just so I know that everything's working out, I'm going to have my cell phone nearby in case Zbyszek tries to contact me and tell me that he can't get on or something like that. So anyway, it looks like I'm live on Facebook, so I'm looking at myself, so that's good. All right, well, just bear with me because, you know, this is my first time doing this, and I just don't want to mess it up, especially for Zbyszek's sake, because what he has to say is pretty important stuff. Well, I'm going to start with a song that I love. It comes from the Behold the Lamb of God Christmas concert that one of my favorite singers and composers, Andrew Peterson, does every year from Nashville live. And as a family, we always download it and watch it. It's become our tradition. And I love Handel's Messiah. I think it's great. It tells a wonderful story. But I love equally Andrew Peterson's own, you know, Christmas retelling. It's great and it's deep. It's rich. The lyrics are rich. But anyway, this is the opening song. And without further ado, here we go. Gather round, ye children, come. Listen to the old story of the power of death undone by an infant born of glory, Son of God, Son of Man. Gather round, remember now how creation held its breath, how it let out a sigh and filled up the sky with the angels. Son of God, Son of Man. So sing out with joy for the brave little boy who was God but made himself nothing. Well, he gave up his pride and he came here to die like a man. Therefore God exalted him to the place of highest praises, and he gave him a name above every name, that at the very name of Jesus, Son of God, we would sing out with joy for the brave little boy who was God, but made himself nothing. Well, he gave up his pride and he came here to die like a man. So in heaven and earth and below, every knee would bow and worship, and every tongue would proclaim that Jesus here reigns with the angels. So sing out with joy for the brave little boy who was God, made himself nothing. Well, he gave up his pride and he came here to die like a man. So gather round, ye children, come, listen to the old story of the power of death undone by an infant born of glory, Son of God, Son of Man. All right. Well, that's why I'm here. That's why I started this YouTube channel about 3 years ago on Easter, or what I like to call Resurrection Sunday. I had a vision. I was thinking about what should I do when I retire, because I was nearing early retirement. I was about to turn 60, which is when I could leave the school district I was with. And I thought, what would I like to do with my time? And I was riding my bike and thinking about things, and I developed a passion to create. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to find a creative outlet. So I knew that I loved going outside, outdoors. I loved showing off the beauty of Oregon and Washington and other places I'd been through camping or snowshoeing or whatever, cycling. But I also had a passion to convey the truth of the scriptures, because what is more important than being connected with God and knowing where you're going to spend the rest of eternity? I mean, what could be more important than that? And for me, the Bible answered that question. It told me that I have a opportunity to have a relationship with God, even though I'm a sinner and I fall short of his perfection, that he's made a way for me to be connected with him through his son and his sacrifice. And that by believing in him and following him and being faithful to him, I could one day enjoy a life with him, a restored Eden, if you will, a Garden of Eden, where we would work and it would have purpose, and we would be reigning and ruling with the King, with King Jesus. And I won't go. If you want to know about my whole story, you can go to my YouTube channel, Villa Scriptura, VillaScriptura, VillaScriptura. It's kind of a play on Sola Scriptura. And go to the thumbnail where I'm wearing a bright orange raincoat, and it says something like the tale of a ragamuffin something or other. I can't remember the whole title I gave it, but it's basically my testimony. And I was up at out in the Yamhill County, there's like a monastery, I think it is. I guess you would call it that. And it's a place where they let you hike also. It's a beautiful area. And I was up there one time and took my camera, and I basically just shared my testimony. So if you want to know about my background and how I came to believe in Christ, trust me, it was all him. It was him searching for me. Then that's where you would want to go. Well, I'm guessing that everything is coming through. I don't have a lot of time to kind of, I guess I'm looking at the chat. I'm not seeing anything. I'm guessing a lot of people are at work. So this is being recorded. And my hope is that as I replay it after I edit it and put it on my Villa Scriptura channel, that people will watch it, more during at their convenience. All right. Well, this next song is one that I learned when Sabrina and I were attending a church in West Lynn called Athey Creek Community Church. And some of you I know who might be on, you may still go to that church, or you have some connection with it. And I used to love learning the songs that Brett and his group of musicians taught, and I just thought some of them were so great. They were great courses, and I hadn't heard some of them before, and they were fun to play on guitar. And there was one that Brett used to play Sunday nights, and I always liked the way he did it. And I probably put my own spin on it now, but it's called "Words Are Not Enough." All right, it goes like this. How do you explain? Oh, I started that horribly. Let me try that again and give this song some justice. How do you explain? How do you describe love that flows from east to west and runs as deep as it is wide? You know all our hopes, you know all our fears. Words cannot express the love we feel, but we long for you to hear. So listen to our hearts, hear our spirits sing a song of praise that flows, those you have redeemed. We will use the words we know to tell you what an awesome God you are. Words are not enough to tell you of our love, so listen to our hearts. If words could fall like rain from these lips of mine, and if I had 1,000 years, I'd still run out of time. But if you listen to our hearts, every beat will say, thank you for the life, thank you for the truth, thank you for the way. So listen to our hearts, hear our spirits sing a song of praise that flows from those you have redeemed. We will use the words we know to tell you what an awesome God you are. Words are not enough to tell you of our love, so listen to our hearts. So listen to our hearts, hear our spirits sing a song of praise that flows from those you have redeemed. We will use the words we know to tell you what an awesome God you are. Words are not enough to tell you of our love, so listen to our hearts. Words are not enough to tell you of our love, so listen to our hearts. All right, well, hopefully everything is checking out okay, and my mute button is, I just realized, oh, my mute button is off. So anyway, let me just kind of go through here and check what's going on. We got the camera going. Okay, and I know Zbyshek has the link, so just waiting for him to come on here momentarily. I think he'll probably come on anytime now. Let's see. Okay. Just checking my settings here to make sure I've got okay. All right. Well, again, if you are listening and you're watching and you would care to just type in the chat box, if that's available to you, that I'm indeed being seen and so forth, that would be really nice. Let me see here. Let's get rid of that guy. And okay. Just a couple of things, just a couple of business items here related to my YouTube channel. Let's see. So I basically, for the last year and a half, have been pretty much on a hiatus from my channel. There's several reasons for that, which I'll get into probably as I relaunch my YouTube channel. I've actually already relaunched it. If you go to Villa Scriptura on YouTube, you'll find, for instance, the last couple of episodes, I called them the Super Bowl edition or something like that. And there's a picture of this picture behind me, that guy there. It's a, if you know the book of Revelation, you know that's Jesus coming back on the white horse, the one who's faithful and true. And that is from a book called The Story of God, Our King. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I read that aloud and show the pictures and so forth with some editing and so forth. So if you want to know about a great, it's not just a Christmas story, it's not like an everyday story, and it would be a great read aloud for your kids to, you know, hear you read to them, or they could read it themselves. And I learned about this just, it was, I think Andrew Peterson mentioned it on during one, maybe during his Christmas concert or something like that. And so that is how I learned about it, and I ordered it. And the publisher is called www.wolfbanebooks.com. That's WOLFBANE books BOOKS.com. And I'll put you know, the information on there in the comments section on my, probably my Villa Scriptura episode on this. There's also some just some video clips I took while, hey Zbyshek, I think I see you there. So let me over here, let me get you on here. I'm just talking. I'll bring you on in just a second, okay? All right, all right. And so anyway, I have some video clips where I'm talking about living in Bella Vista, and just some reflections I have about life and faith and kind of where I'm at with things. And so, you know, jump on board and check that out. There's some, I had initially 3 years ago, I started this channel because I wanted to have some passion, some creative outlet when I retired. I didn't want to be shrivel up and die like a lot of retired guys do. You can eat donuts and drink coffee, you know, and get bored, right, Zbyszek? We don't want to do that. And so anyway, I had this passion to start this channel, and I just loved, I fell in love with editing for some reason. Man, I would stay up late at night. I just love the creativity with the editing process. And I love the idea of bringing the outdoors to people and then combining it with biblical teaching. And I also had a passion for something I don't think is mentioned a lot in churches, and that's the resurrection. And so I did a whole series on, you know, what's the resurrection? Why did Paul spend a whole long chapter or section in First Corinthians? Because that was a church that didn't embrace the resurrection. And I thought, that's weird. Why wouldn't they embrace the resurrection? And then that led me into a study of the Gnostics and so forth. But anyway, check that out. I think you'll find that interesting. It may shake up your paradigm a little bit, but that's okay. That's what the Bible does, man. It shakes up your paradigm. It rocks your world. It changes you. It transforms you. So anyway, and then one final thing, and then I'm going to bring Zbyszek on here. One of the other things I have a heart for is a orphanage in Kazakhstan. And this is something that you'll learn Zbyszek and I share, is our love and appreciation for Kazakhstan, because that's where we first met in 1994. I recently learned of a gentleman by the name of Baket Yusinov, who runs an orphanage for older kids. Apparently, when you reach a certain age, I don't know if it's all Russian orphanages or if it's, I don't know how many orphanages this is, if it's just across the former Soviet Union. But apparently when you reach a certain age, you get kicked out of the orphanages. They just say, bye-bye. And you think about it, if you were like 18, 19, 20, and suddenly you're out on the streets, I mean, just think how desperate you would be. Of course, it would be tempting to steal. Of course, it would be tempting to earn money through prostitution. Of course, you're trying to survive. And so this guy, Baket, which by the way means joy in the Kazakh language, isn't that a great name, Joy? We named our dog that, by the way, which when I met Baket, I thought that's kind of funny that I'm spending I'm talking to this guy that was I named my dog after. But anyway, so he's running this orphanage, he and his wife Shinar, in a town called Taldi Kurgan, which is northwest of Almaty, which was the former capital of present day Kazakhstan. And like any person running an orphanage, they need funds. I mean, it doesn't run by itself. So I have been trying to just raise awareness, because the Bible does talk about helping orphans and widows in their distress, and these people are definitely in their distress. So anyway, I am along with what Zbyshek is going to talk about, which is another cause I feel very strongly about that he'll talk about. If you are willing to give $20 or more to either of these causes, the orphanage or this help for the Ukrainians who are desperately in a desperate situation with the war-torn situation and Putin and all that he's doing, I will send you. Now, I know Zbyszek is, hopefully he's not going to get sick now because I'm going to get kind of commercial on him. But I will send you a cup like this. And on this cup, it says, I can do all things through a verse taken out of context. Now, those of you who know me know I'm a sarcastic kind of guy, and this is a sarcastic kind of cup. And I've been guilty of this myself, taking things out of context. But I think, wouldn't this be a great cup to bring to a Bible study where you'd really shake things up? But if you're in the continental US, and that I'm saying that because shipping is so darn expensive outside of that, I will send this to you free of charge if you give $20 or more. And I'll trust you if you just email me and say, Tim, I'm giving $20 to Zbyszek's cause, the Ukrainian cause, or $20 to the orphanage. Hey, I'll trust you for it. If you don't like coffee cups, I've got bracelets. I've got bracelets that say, you matter, mortal. And that's kind of a slam on the Gnostics because they thought matter was evil. And then on the other side, it says 1 Corinthians 15, 21 through 22, which talks about the resurrection happening when Jesus comes at his coming. I also have buttons, if you prefer a button, that says, you matter, mortal, you matter, comma. Now, those of you who live in Oregon, you know that this is a bit of a play on the You Matter campaign, which I think started as an anti-suicide thing where people put these signs in their yard that said, you matter, or we're in this together. I always laughed during COVID when people put them out then because I thought, what? With all this controversy over wearing masks and not? Are you kidding me? I don't think we're in this together. I think people are actually really divided over it. But anyway, that's what that's all about. Again, if you pledge $20 or more to Zbyszek's ministry that he'll talk about soon, or the orphanage, I will send one of these things to you. And all you have to do is tell me, and I'll trust you for it. Okay, without further ado, I am proud to introduce you to, let me get this right here. Okay. Here we go. Zbyszek. All right, let me get this other little picture out of the way, Zbyszek. So we can be okay. So I have the proud distinction of introducing you to someone I met in 1994. He's from Poland. His name's Zbyszek. Now, Zbyszek, do you go by James to help stupid English people who can't say your name right? Is that what that's all about?
Yeah, it's important. It's international.
Okay.
So
all right.
it's helpful.
But what
even
if I have
at the airport? It's helpful when you're late for the plane.
Oh, James, come to the desk, James.
Yeah, but if they have to say Zbyszek, it takes much longer and it may take too long.
I have to laugh a little bit. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Zbyszek on becoming a grandfather for the first time. Now, Zbyszek, I think becoming a grandparent was like one of the top 5, maybe the top 3 experiences of my life in terms of joy, just being
Okay.
overwhelmed with joy. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Were you there at the hospital when your daughter had the baby?
No, no, I wasn't in the country, so.
Oh, okay. But you when you got there, you know the feeling you had. It was just
Mm,
amazing. And
yeah.
so I just love this phase of life when they're like rentals, right?
Mm. No, no,
Mine were
it's
yeah,
true. It's very different.
yeah,
I haven't done much, but I'm as happy as I would do everything.
yeah. No, it's great. Mine were just here and you know, they and my daughter's kids are really well behaved. They're so easy. And they just were here and they were just so delightful. And my granddaughter, I've been paying my kids and grandkids to pick up rocks because it's very rocky soil here.
Mhm.
And they're used to me paying them now. So Winnie, my granddaughter, had this big rock in her hand and she said, "Hey grandpa, next time pay me for the rock, okay?" So anyway, but Zbyszek and I met each other in 1994, and Sabrina and I and our two kids moved to Almaty, Kazakhstan. We joined a team. We had Americans, Norwegians, and Poles on our team, and I felt a little bit sorry for the Poles because we had one guy on the team named Bart. You'll remember Bart, and we had one of the Polish guys. His name was Kashishik, and uh, every time that this fellow would say Kashishik's name, he wouldn't just say it, he would sneeze it. So he would say, Kashik, Kashik. And so
Oh,
I felt so sorry. But I have to tell you, the Poles, man, they know how to give back. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are really direct people. Don't you think? I
true.
think, I think you're direct. I mean, I remember
Okay.
once when we were talking and, you know, in some ways, I think Americans and Russians are alike in that they're kind of cocky. They can be kind of cocky and hey, we're like the cowboys of the world, and we do this, and they're kind of braggadocious. And I remember once we were doing something, and one of us, maybe it was me, said something like critical of something going on, and one of the gals, I won't mention her name, but she was one of the gals on our team, on the Poles team, and she says, well, Americans have blind spots too. And I thought, well, yeah, that's true. And but I just found it kind of refreshing to and you learn this when you deal with people from other cultures that they look at things differently. They look at you differently. And yet when they get to know you, they adjust their thinking. And I know I went through that with the various people I worked with. And it was good for me because it made me look at myself differently, and it made me look at my country differently. But anyway, I just wanted to say that as a form of introduction. Zbyszek, why don't you just spend some time telling us about who you are, maybe um, where you come from, where you lived, uh, what motivated you to get involved with overseas work and so forth.
Mm. Okay. Yes, I think I was born in Poland, but I think I spent my life, most of the life, outside of Poland. I moved out when I was 21, and I moved to Central Asia after the fall of the Soviet Union. So all my youth life I spent in totally different country, Asian country, and Muslim country as well, which is quite different than Eastern Europe. And then after that, after 10 over 10 years, we came back home. I mean, home to Poland. Stayed there maybe for 3 4 years maximum, and we moved to Great Britain, where we lived over 10 years again. And from there, I traveled to the east, to Asian countries and former Soviet Union countries. So I feel myself as a person in between the East and the West cultures. Um, I can't find myself peacefully in both cultures because they are foreign to me, but close to me. I think I understand a lot, and it's why I try to what I see in the East. I try to explain to people in the West, and my experience from the West. I try to explain to people in the Eastern countries so they can learn also something. The cultures are very different. My experience from the Central Asian countries are very encouraging and challenging people in the West. But when I share them, already I experience something. When I visit Central Asia, very often I walk through the village or small town, and people see me as a foreigner, and they invite me home for tea, cup of tea, and the cup of tea is not just a tea. In probably 20 minutes, the table is full of food, and the children around, and some relatives, and it's not just it's a feast. And I remember meetings like that when I visited Uzbekistan, and somebody invited me home, and they asked me to just wait a little bit. We will have tea. I sat down on the sofa in the living room, and wife of the family, of the man of the family, went to the kitchen to prepare the meal. The man went out to kill the chicken to prepare the meal, and I was left with the children, who was standing in front of me, and one was probably about maybe 9 years old girl was telling me a poem in their language.
Uh,
So she was entertaining me.
was
When
she
she
was she
finished,
telling it to you in Uzbek or in
yeah,
Russian?
of course, because they were proud that they can learn now Uzbek poems.
Uh-huh.
And then she finished. She looked, behind her back if mom is coming from the kitchen, but she was still working in the kitchen. And I know she was working in the kitchen because when she was preparing the salad in the kitchen, I I knew she's cutting tomatoes or cucumbers or maybe another vegetable, and I knew why. What do you think? Why did I know what was she cutting when? Any clue?
Are you asking me what?
Yeah.
How do I think?
What do you
Oh,
think? How did I know?
I don't know the sound of it, or you were.
The smell.
I don't know. Oh yeah, okay.
Smell, because the vegetables smell.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
smell, and every vegetable and the fruit brought to the house, you can smell it.
yeah.
I don't smell it in the West. They
Uh-huh.
very often they almost taste the same, and for sure
Yeah,
they don't smell like that.
yeah.
So the food is different, but the girl was looking. Mom is not coming. She's still cutting something for the salad, and so she's singing a song because she's there to entertain me. The boy is looking through the window. The father is still, trying to catch the chicken. So they don't know what to do, the kids. So he's bringing a photo album, and he's showing me photos. This is my uncle, and this is my aunt, and this is my cousin,
Sure.
and because they are entertaining. And the boy
Yeah,
was maybe 6 years old.
yeah.
So when he finished, the girl went to the kitchen, and I can hear they speak to each other. They are starting to bring things to the room. The boy is looking if father is over there. He's not there, so probably chicken is ready. But I'm still by myself. The parents are not in the room, so he comes back with the same album and now starts to show me the pictures from the backwards, and explain me, because why? Because I'm the guest. And if I
Yes.
am the guest, everything stops in the house, or everything
Yeah,
starts in the house to prepare because guest is there.
yeah. So
Uh,
would you say then that because this is something I experienced too when I lived in Kazakhstan, that you learn quickly that every culture has certain values, things that they place value on. And in Central Asia, it's hospitality is like number one. Wouldn't you agree with that? That's of huge importance?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yes. It's like talking about sports. American football is number one in the US. Football is number one in Great Britain,
Right.
and maybe horse riding in Kazakhstan, as you say.
Right.
So these are,
Yeah.
number ones, but
Mm-hmm.
sports in general are important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that hospitality in the States is important as well, and it's important in Great Britain, but it's just practiced differently. And
Yes.
I know it's different because when I come back to England and my friends invite me because they know I travel to different places, they like to hear the stories. So they invite me for tea. So I come, and they pour a cup of tea, and they put one biscuit for each person in the room on the plate. We eat biscuit, we drink tea, and I know it's the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
and I say great, and they are happy that I was, and they listen to my story, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's different,
Yeah.
but they are happy I was there,
Yeah.
and not less happy than the Uzbek.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happy I visited my old English friends.
Yeah.
And but so I don't agree that things are more important or less important, but they are totally different in practicing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what
So
I yeah.
yeah, could you explain how you could I'm gonna jump ahead so you left Central Asia. I don't know what year was it that you finished in Kazakhstan?
2003.
Okay. So it was it 2004 that the events of September 1st in Beslan happened?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so a lot of people who are listening, they probably don't really even know about
Mhm.
September 1st, 2004 in Beslan in the Caucasus. Could you sort of summarize what happened and then how you got involved?
I came back from Central Asia in summertime, so it was 2004. And on 2000, I mean, and in September when the school starts, I was taking my kids to school. It was first year for them. It's Polish school. So I was driving them to the school, and I put the radio on, and I've heard that there is a terrorist attack on a school in small town in Caucasus in former Soviet Union, and very near to Chechen Republic. And I stopped in front of the school. They went into the school, and I was listening to it. And I knew from the radio they were saying that there is 270 hostages inside of the school, children and their parents, because they came for first day at the school. The parents brought the children. The school was the biggest in BS1, and there were about almost 1,000 students.
Hmm.
So everyone in BS1 at that time, when the news were saying 270 hostages, everyone knew that it's not true. And people were screaming, and they were saying, "What are you doing? Why are you not saying the truth?"
Hmm.
And I haven't heard them screaming, but the same feeling I had in the car. They are not saying all the truth. There is
Hmm.
something wrong, because the 1st of September is one of the biggest holiday in celebration in the former Soviet Union.
Yeah, just to let people know, this is when all of the parents, grandparents, and children they get dressed up in their nicest suits and dresses, and the girls have ribbons in their hair, and basically they celebrate the first day of the school year together as a community, right?
Yes, that day, even in this town, BS1, even the kindergartens were closed. So the parents can take the smaller children for this celebration to school, because they celebrate it in front of the school. So it
Hmm.
doesn't matter how many people are there, all of them can watch it. And during the vacation, children are preparing the program for this first day of school. So everyone was there, and little children and grandparents, and as you said, beautifully dressed children. And in that moment, two vans came in, and terrorists in masks attacked the school, and they pushed people inside. The truth was that there was 1,200 hostages inside of the school, not 270. And after third day, when they were kept, and the president of Russia, and he was the new president of Russia, Putin, he said we don't negotiate with terrorists, and he did not allow any negotiations with the terrorists inside. The question was, how was it possible that on that day in the Caucasus, which was checked, which are checkpoints on the roads, and usually are guards in the school, and there were no guards in the school, and nobody checked two vans, looking military vans, entered from the mountains towards the biggest school in town on the 1st of September. And there are many other evidence which show that the Russians knew that something is coming. And after all, maybe one day you can read the book about it, which I wrote, because I visited that place after a month, after 40 days, and I visited over 100 families. Why? Because I knew that nobody is going to tell them the truth. And after 10 years, I went again. And after 10 years, I met the families, and they were saying nobody tells the truth. What happened in the school of Beslan?
What did they think happened? Did they think it was? Are you suggesting that it was the Russians sort of allowed it to happen so that the Chechens would look worse, and then the public sentiment would be growing against the Chechens? Or is that what you're suggesting? Or
Yes, after this, two things for sure. One, after this, the power of President Putin was much stronger than ever before, because he said, "We are fighting international terrorism," and the same thing he's saying today, fighting and killing children and civilians in Ukraine, that they are fighting against Nazists, against terrorists of 21st century. And he did the same in Beslan. He said that they killed all the terrorists. When people say they more than a half left a night before, there was an attack attack by the Russians of the school. So they caught only one terrorist, and most of the people say they haven't seen him even inside the school.
oh boy! And I thought I read somewhere that was it 333? Was it children were killed?
53, 300, 53. I think altogether, 280 children died.
So it was the worst school massacre of all time.
Yes, and it was the biggest terrorist attack in Europe. It's never been before anything like that, and after. And Putin never visited Beslan as a president, never met with the mothers, and they went to 300 or something courts in Russia, asking for investigation, and always they've said that the case is closed because they had witnesses, they had stories, they wanted to find the truth. So till today, almost 20 years after, nobody knows the truth, or the truth is very clear when we look at Ukraine. It was just the plan, and getting more power into the hands of the group of people that now rule in Russia.
Your book that you wrote, what's the title of it again? I forgot the title.
It's Shattered Town, Beslan.
Shattered Town, and it's been only published in Polish, is that right?
Well, yes, it's translated into Russian, and we are working on an English version.
Okay,
but
that would be great.
It's important because it is showing also the mindset of the Russians, and also shows the context of growing in power, Putin and the group from Kremlin. Yeah.
Now, when you grew up as a child in Poland, were you forced to learn Russian in the schools?
Yeah, it was a foreign language, but we had to. There was Polish language and a foreign language, and it was Russian, which was the foreign language.
Now, what town was it that you grew up in Poland?
In what town?
Yeah, city, town.
It's a small town on the island and the border with Germany, north on the Baltic Sea. Yeah, it's a
So
small
that'd be
town in
West.
Poland. West,
Would
north,
that be West Germany? That would be bordering West Germany,
East Germany,
East Germany.
Eastern
Okay.
Germany and Poland. Yeah.
Did you grow up feeling like your parents resented the Russians, or did your community, you just could not wait to get the yoke of tyranny off of your necks as Poles, or what was that like growing up under Russian domination, Soviet domination?
Yeah, Soviet domination, but it is Russian domination, and I mean we were very happy and very we were fighting for this freedom. And in the States, the first president of Poland, which was Wałęsa, and the
Yeah.
Solidarity movement, and it really was a big thing because after the Second World War, we were not free. The World War was finished, ended, and we had no Nazis, but we had Soviets.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
everyone asked the same question: who was worse?
Mm-hmm.
And I can see it when I travel to Ukraine and I meet people there who maybe not live, but lived under the occupation for the last 6 or 8 months, and they have the same question: they don't know Nazis because they don't see them or meet them, and they are too young to remember the Second World War, but they can see Russian soldiers, and they say, probably Nazis were not worse than they are.
Yeah. So help me with the history there.
I've lost you.
There we go. Okay. Let me get this one guy out of here. This one was the one that froze up. Okay. So would you say then, so during World War II, Ukraine, did they side with the Germans, or did they side with the
No,
Soviet?
they were part of the Soviet army.
Okay.
And there were Germans, and the part of them were fighting because some of them were hoping to fight for freedom of their own country.
Yeah, right.
And they knew that even if they win with the Nazis, or what they win with Germans, they will be under Russian occupation.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize, I mean, I've always thought Stalin was just probably even worse than Hitler in terms of the number of people that were killed under his rule. But I mean, they were both bad. They're both bad, evil dictators like Putin is. On a side note, Zbyszek, as I read the book of Daniel now, I totally understand why the image of a nation is a beast, because as you watch what's going on in the Ukraine, and you watch what goes on in any country that takes advantage of other people, it's like a beast that's tearing and ripping people apart. And whether it's Romans or Babylonians or Egyptians or Russians or Americans, if there have been things in our history where Indians, Native Americans were mistreated and lied to and so forth, and I finally get it that yes, the nations, the people who want control and power act like beasts. I kind of think of them as beast riders, like they're on some kind of mean, crazy dragon, incited by the dragon, and they're trying to basically just maintain their power.
I see this beast visiting these places when people from the Ukrainians come up from the basements or from destroyed buildings or apartment buildings. And I see the beasts because you can see it in their eyes. And you can see the fear, and also the question, like why, uh, you know, what have we done?
Yeah.
Uh, and exactly what you've said, and the question. So what's the truth? Are you good? Are they bad?
Mm-hmm.
But but the most important, who are we in all of this?
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about the beast, what I can see in the war now, and I can see that the beast is not human. It's not. It's not logical.
Yeah.
You cannot predict what will happen and what it will do to you.
Mm-hmm.
And when before the war started with Ukraine in a year ago, because it's just a year ago, I worked for one of the biggest outsourcing employment agency in Europe, because many Ukrainians were coming to, especially to Poland, but also other countries, Czech Republic, some Germans, Dutch, and Holland, and other countries. And it was the biggest one who was employing them temporarily in the big companies, Amazon, which and LG, Korean, different. It's not just one country, but many automotive companies, which need people very often seasonal, just for a season of
Yeah.
peak season or
Sure.
something. So I worked with them because for 3 years before the war, or 4 years, I worked as a consultant for this big company to help them to understand the employees, the people they are inviting and processing, and then helping them to be good workers anyway in the Western companies. So
Mm-hmm.
they needed also cultural preparation.
Mm-hmm.
So I work with them, and in December we came to that company because I do it with my friend. We have a small consulting bureau, and we told them, guys, we need to think and prepare because you have over 5,000 employees from Ukraine. We need to think what to do if the war starts. Will they go back? Will they stop working? Do you have any plan? And they said, no, we don't think about it. Why do you think the war will stop?
Mm-hmm.
And then in January, we came again in the middle of January, and you say, because there were a lot of information coming, especially from the States, that the war may happen. And it's not just media.
Yeah.
And we came and we said, this is kind of a responsibility, the risk management. You need to be prepared because in one day you may lose half of the employees because at least half of them were men. So if they mobilize them, you won't have workers. What do? You have contracts, you have everything. So they said, yeah, we should probably think about it. And like many big corporations, it took them a few weeks. And in the beginning of February, they said, "Guys, yeah, we agree. We need to do something. But could you ask the Ukrainians what will they do? Can you research so we know, what we are waiting for?" And we said, "Of course, it's the plan. So do you agree for us to prepare this risk management proposal?" Yeah, let's start that. So we started, and I started to talk to them. I was talking to them at the companies. I visited their accommodations because many times they live in the workers' accommodations. I talked to them, and 95% were saying there won't be war.
Hmm.
I could easily say no. Everyone was saying no, there won't be war.
Hmm.
Um, and even 2 days before 24th of February, I visited a couple of the hostels where they were living, yeah, dormitories for the workers, and they were saying when I asked them, "Are you going to go home if the war starts? Are you going to bring your family if the war starts? Will you go and fight for the country if the war starts?" They said, we don't talk about these questions,
Hmm.
you know, because we and Russians, yeah, we are in conflict, but we are brothers. Many families are mixed,
Yeah.
and we before I came to Poland, I worked in Russia, and things like that. But at the end, when the war started, I understood one important thing: is they were not making plans. They didn't know what to do. They were not prepared what to do because simply they didn't want the war.
Yeah, sure.
They were just pushing it in the sense of it won't happen,
Hmm.
and it was wrong, of
Hmm.
course. The good things that the government, the Ukraine government, and the military were prepared, but the people were not. And I think that many times it's the same with us. We know that something will happen because we do wrong. We get into, in the Christian or religious language, even Muslim, you say you go into the sin,
Right.
and but you try to tell yourself that nothing wrong will happen,
Hmm.
and you don't want to be rational. Uh, you don't want to ask questions. If I'm not faithful, will I divorce? If I
Yeah.
divorce, I won't live with children. I don't want to ask these questions.
Right. It's too horrible to
Hopefully, it
contemplate.
will not happen to me.
Yeah.
And it's how the Ukrainian people were thinking.
Yeah.
It won't happen to me because we live in 21st century.
Sure.
We are
Yeah.
civilized.
I've got an Airbnb I'm renting out, and surely, I've got a great money making thing here, and everybody's coming to
And I am
Ukraine.
educated, and I have children, and I have a mortgage, and no, there won't be war. But in the morning of the 24th, the war started, and started in a way that nobody expected. The Ukrainians did not expect it because the rockets were coming towards their towns and the capital, and the Russians did not expect it because they thought they will take over the country in a week time.
So, do you think it was precipitated? It was started because of Putin's fear that the Ukraine was getting more and more closer to becoming a NATO member, and he was paranoid about that. Is he basically a paranoid man, or is he out to try to rebuild the Soviet Empire, or what do you think his motivation is?
No, he thinks that he is like the biggest, probably the biggest Russian leader in their history, the Peter, the great
Yeah,
Peter.
Peter the Great, right?
Yeah, and he thinks he's like that, and he was not planning to conquer the Ukraine. His plan was to come back with the borders, or in times of the Soviet Union. So it means he would take over the Central Asia, how it was in before the Soviet Union fall. He would like to have the republics, the Baltic republics, back, and who knows, even come to Poland,
Hmm.
Czech Republic, and others. But for sure to have all the same republics that were before, because he spoke about it when the war started. That
Yeah,
it's not about Ukraine. It's about us being strong like we were in the 90s.
right. Bring our glory back. Make
Yeah.
sort of his version of make Russia great again.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. And the Russia is great only, and it's one thing that we need to know, and it's from the cultural background context. Russia is only strong not when it's wealthy, not when it's the maybe like China, the most I don't know, growing country or something. Russia is strong when everyone else is afraid of it.
Mm. So
So
they
this,
like to be the intimidator.
yeah. So this is the way we are strong. We eat potatoes and onion, but everyone is afraid of us. We are big. We are strong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We have cars from the 90s, technology of 80s and 70s, like they are producing now,
Hmm.
but all the world must be afraid because we have nuclear power.
Yes, right.
You see, so it because they don't care about the nation, they care about their great name.
Does the Ukraine have nuclear capability?
It's the thing that happened in during the Soviet Union. Countries where you were, Kazakhstan and also Ukraine were the most powerful nuclear countries and regions in the former Soviet Union. When the communism fell down and the perestroika came and Gorbachev came, and they started to be friends with the West in a sense, and they started to stop this nuclear program, the Cold War. They signed the documents that Ukraine must get rid of all the nuclear weapons.
Yeah. I remember Kazakhstan doing that as well.
The
They were,
same, yes.
yeah,
But we guarantee that we won't attack the Ukraine, and the West warranted that they will help Ukraine because of that.
sure, sure.
And
Yeah.
now you see what happened. If they had
Well,
nuclear,
again, I hate to say it, but I know enough about American history to know that promises are made, like to Native Americans, that were broken all the time. All kinds of promises.
I think we
Broken,
all
broken.
give promises and we all break them.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree that we.
And when we are wealthier, when we are stronger, as a person, we give bigger promises.
Yes,
It's
you're
only the
right.
difference. The poor people, they give promises too,
You're right.
but they are not crucial. But still, they
Yeah,
break them.
you're right. The national problems are an outgrowth of the personal sin problem, right? That we see.
It is like I've said about the hospitality. It's every country is has hospitality, and it's a big value. But and every country gives promises, and every country wants to be great. I haven't met a country, even the Afghan people, which are the poorest probably country in the world. They are very proud that they are the biggest because nobody ever conquered them. It's
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
it. I
Great
can
reading.
understand that it's a great feeling in the evening when you go to bed and you feel like nobody ever conquered
No
me.
one's
But
conquered us. Yay!
yeah, but in the morning it's not so great when you have nothing on the table.
I don't have a goat to eat today, though. But
We
hey,
don't.
no one's
Yeah,
beat us.
we have nothing to eat.
Yeah. No, I understand.
So
Everybody needs their slice of pride, I guess.
exactly.
Um, I was going to say one thing, and then I want you to move on to this Dutch organization you're working with, and get into
Mm,
your slides and so forth. But I have to say, when Sabrina and I came back from Kazakhstan, you go through at least for us, we went sort of through a reentry process where you never quite look at your own country the same way.
yeah.
But we were on our way out. I don't know. We were on our way to Montana to go to a family reunion, and we stopped by some relatives' house, and we thought, hey, we haven't seen these relatives for a long, long time. Surely they're gonna, kill the fatted calf and have a
Yeah,
big
exactly.
barbecue, and that was like, oh, let's just meet. We're just gonna meet at a restaurant and have pizza, and having lived in Kazakhstan and being used to being treated like a king when you go to visit someone,
Mm,
and then thinking, wait a minute, it's just not my neighbor. This is my relative. And I
yeah,
haven't seen them for a long time. And we're eating pizza at a pizza
yeah.
place. I mean, and part of it was they were both busy. Both people were working
Yes,
parents.
exactly.
The mother was not the female was not at home cooking like you would see,
Yeah.
in a classic Central Asian
Mm,
family where the woman is like all day long, she's working her butt off,
mm,
in the kitchen.
mm.
So that part I understood, but it just struck me as wow. And Zbyszek, this happens all the time in America where hardly anyone sits around the table and has a table meal anymore. It's, and including us,
Mm.
hey, yeah, I want to sit in front of, you mind if I sit in front of watch, ESPN Sports Center, or get caught up on the basketball game or catch the news or, oh yeah, yeah, fine. Sabrina and I have that kind of conversation all the time. Sometimes we'll sit together and eat. Other times it's more like, hey, grab your food and, turn on the TV. So anyway, I just think it's interesting. Like you said, that everyone has, it's like I was talking to an Anglican guy that was an Anglican priest, and he said, every church has liturgy. If you listen for it, it might not sound like Anglican or high church liturgy,
Mhm.
where people are repeating, or Catholic liturgy, But if you listen, there's a liturgy. And we're going to this church where the pastor starts all the time saying, God is good. And then the congregants say all the time. And then he says, and all the time. And then they say, God is good. And I turned to Sabrina the other day and I said, liturgy.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
So it's interesting. Hey,
tradition is important.
What's
tradition is important.
I agree. And we all,
makes the world interesting.
Oh, and we all have it. You know, we all have traditions, whether we think of it as tradition or not. It's like I remember one of your favorite movies was Fiddler on the Roof, you know, and that's, boy, tradition, you know.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good song. Yeah.
So right. Now, Zbyszek, you got involved after the Beslan book and after your time in Afghanistan, which I haven't even touched upon that. We'll have to talk about that some other time. But could you tell us how you got involved in? Obviously, you're a Pole and you're concerned about, hey, what the heck is going on in my neck of the woods now? I mean, what about, you know, we've got people coming across our borders desperate, and they're coming into Poland for help, and you're seeing it right on the front lines in your own country, and you're right on the border of all the chaos and horror. So obviously you would be concerned, just like I would be concerned if something was going on in Canada and what's going on? It's going to come to our country. So
you've had this time, maybe you don't remember, but you've had this time when the Soviets were starting to be very strong and very aggressive through the Cuba.
Oh yeah, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Oh yeah, I mean, people don't, you know, Canada. We were on the brink. I mean, if you study that time, I mean, it was, if Khrushchev had not blinked, or Canada, you know, it could have been horrible. That particular October was 6 days in October.
It is how it is now in Europe. Very, very close to.
Yeah,
the same feeling.
Right. And I know the very first Ukrainian I met was, our church helped this family come over to Oregon, and they didn't speak a word of English, and we volunteered. We raised our hand and said they can spend the night at our house. And I was studying a little bit of Russian because I knew I might want to go to, you know, some other country someday, but just a little bit of Russian, like Berlitz tapes, you know, like where's the bathroom, or you know, can I have some water, stuff like that. But this guy had worked at Chernobyl in the cleanup of Chernobyl, like pushing a broom. And he came over with horrible cancer, obviously, because he'd been exposed. And, you know, it's not like they gave him some special suit for protection. No. But he came over with his wife, and I think they had 4 kids at the time. And they stayed the night, and they were, it was an interesting night because we were just using sign language, and, you know, but they were great. They were really kind people. And we stayed in contact with the wife, because when I moved to Kazakhstan, we found out that the husband died of cancer because he was very sick when he came. And I remember Zbyszek, he made this giant church it was a thank you gift to us out of matches. It was a giant, like a cathedral. It was huge. It was beautiful, out of matchsticks. And he gave it to me. He painted it with lacquer or shellac or something. And he gave it to me as a gift, and it meant so much to me. But when I was overseas, my brother was intrigued by it. He picked it up, and he accidentally dropped it, fortunately, in the bathtub. Or I don't know why he had it in the bathtub, but I don't even want to understand that. But he dropped it, and it lit on fire. No. The whole thing lit on fire. No. Yes. And it exploded. Yes. No. Yes. And yes. And no, that's the story. He had to take it into the bathroom. That's right. He took it into the bathroom, and he turned on the bath and submerged it in the water. And but I tell you, that was amazing. But then we came back from Kazakhstan.
Well, you had the Chernobyl at home.
It was a little Chernobyl at home, right? Yes, exactly. It could have been far worse. I'm glad my mother, I don't know if my mother was there, but she was probably very angry. But anyway, maybe my brother was mad at me and wanted to take out his revenge at that. I don't know what it was. But anyway, we came back, and the wife was living in Vancouver, which is a city across the river from Portland. She was raising rabbits in the backyard for meat.
Mhm.
And her English was a little bit better, but the kids were, of course, the kids were speaking English, like how
Yeah.
kids do when they, and but we stayed in contact with them, and some of the brothers were auctioning, they were running auctions with cars, which in
Mhm.
Portland, for some reasons, the Russians and the Ukrainians got heavily involved in car auctions, and they would make money, and they buy a car and then fix it up and turn over the profit. They're very resourceful, these
Mhm.
immigrants who come here.
And good with
Um,
hands. Yeah.
pardon me?
Good with hands.
Very oh, I was jealous because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't fix
Very
anything.
handy. Yeah. Yeah.
I have to pay someone
Very handy
like
guys. Yeah.
thousands of dollars to fix my car because I'm
Yeah.
too much of a knucklehead to
Yeah.
figure it out myself.
Exactly.
No, I have great respect for the men of the Soviet Union because they had to fix things. They
Mhm.
had to.
Mhm.
If you wanted to own a car, you had to fix it. But anyway, and then I have a person who cut my hair in Oregon was from the Ukraine, and we used to talk all the time. And she would say, "Tim, we should practice your Russian. Come on,
Mhm.
let's practice. You want to
Mhm.
stay with your Russian, you should practice." Okay, all right. So Svetlana was her name. And I remember talking to her when all of this stuff started happening. How's your family? What's going on? And I could see in her eyes this increasing concern
Mhm.
about the horrible things that she was starting to hear from her relatives that were going on. Thankfully, I mean, I hate to say it, but her mom died right before the invasion. And it was almost like a relief because I thought, oh, how horrible that your mom would be there alone. Because she would go and visit her and
Mhm.
at her dacha, which is like
Mhm.
where they grow their food. And it's like a little place out in the country where they grow their food. And but anyway, that's my connection with Ukrainians. So I have
Mhm.
always, because of that, I've always had a heart for the Ukraine. I've never been there, but I've always had a heart for the
Mhm.
Ukraine. So tell us about your heart and how you got involved in this Dutch organization and what you do.
Mhm. Mhm. It will be not such a short story, so I will try to cut it. But at the beginning of the war, my daughter called me, who lives in London, and said, "Dad, there is a guy who is working with me at the office, and he's playing computer games with a guy from Holland, and they play games, and they talk." So the Dutch guy asked this English guy in our office, if he knows any Poles because they are going to Poland to pick up some refugees in the first week of March. And that guy came to my daughter and said, I know that you come from Poland, and do you know somebody who could help them? So she said, yeah, I know the best guy who could help them, and just call my dad and he can help them.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
She's a loyal daughter.
so on a Friday night, we were sitting at the table in Poland to have a meal. The phone call ring, and the guy from Poland called, and she said, I got your number from your daughter, and we need some help because we are coming with 4 or 6 cars from Holland, and we want to pick up some refugees because first week of the war we had thousands of refugees in Poland just in the first week,
Mm.
and so we are coming to help. So I said, okay, how can I help you? Oh, we need to know where to get the people. We need to know where to sleep. Just help us with logistics. So I said, okay. So I have dinner. Call me later, and maybe tomorrow we talk. And he says, yeah, but we are on the border. We will be in the town in 2 or 3 hours.
Mm.
So yeah, they
Okay.
were very spontaneous. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so I said, okay, I help you with that, and I helped them first weekend, and they were coming next weekend as well, and they were coming for probably 3 months, almost every week, to pick up people with their own. I mean, they were coming with their own private cars, filling up with the refugees, mostly mothers and children, and bringing them to Holland, Amsterdam, and other maybe even smaller towns, finding host families, finding places to stay, and they assist them with schooling and legal papers and everything. So they help, I don't know, 200 or something people just to find a roof and a normal life, as we can say, or at least find a safe place from the war.
Can I just interject here, just so people understand? So, people in the Ukraine, would you say all the people still speak Russian
No,
in
I
Ukraine?
will explain.
Okay.
Yeah. If you can put the slide number 3, I will show it and
Okay.
explain it.
Bear with me here just a second. I will try to. Can you see the slide now?
Not yet.
Okay. Let me get my glass. Putting on my glasses. Bear with me here. I had this all good to go.
Okay, don't worry,
And
we'll come.
I might have to go. Let me go back to this. What I'm trying to do here is media slides. Zbyshek. It says file size can't exceed 50 megabytes. Hang on a second. Just give me a second.
Yeah, so these guys, they were coming, and I was helping them. But in April, and was the number of refugees was coming down. People were not the Ukrainians were not coming as many of them, and there was no need to come to Poland anymore to pick up them. Some of them were going to. Yeah, oh, good. I see it now.
Well, I think that's just a picture, though. Keep talking. I'm gonna work on it as you're talking.
Okay. Okay. So they stopped coming and pick up the families, but they were busy with helping them in the Netherlands. But in summertime, we started to talk. Okay, guys, we still can help, but it's not the most important that we help people who already have safe place. But we could start to help people who are looking for safe place, or they need basic products, food, and just products to survive.
Right.
And we came with a project, with an idea and project to go and help people in Ukraine. Yeah, this is good.
Okay. I'm gonna take a couple things away here. Just to, give me a minute here.
So it's how we started, and in August we started to prepare the first trip to Ukraine, and in September we went, like a pioneering the crossing the border. I went with one of them from the organization in April, just to Lviv on the border with Poland, just to see how it is, so they can sort of believe that it's safe to travel there. And safe, of course, it's safe, as we say. It's almost safe. But looking at the map, and I can see it now, and you can see the map, is what is important in answering your question. Do they all speak Russian? And not all of them, because Ukraine in general is divided into most, you would say, three parts: the west part of Ukraine, and then the east south part of the Ukraine, and the center Ukraine. The center is around, I would say, around Kiev. The west is the part that before the Second World War, most of it was part of Poland. The new borders which were agreed for after the Second War gave some of the Polish towns to the Ukraine, and some German towns to Poland. So these borders are different than they were before the Second World War. So the West Ukraine was always looking at Europe and saying that they are part of Europe. Many people there would say they are part of Poland in their culture, or Hungarian, or other countries from Eastern Europe. The center of Ukraine, with Kiev as the capital, they would say we are the historical Ukraine. It's where the Ukraine started, in Kiev, by the Vikings. The truth is, And then the east of Ukraine, although it was always Ukraine, but they do speak Russian, and they have very strong connection with Russia because of the past. So in the west of Ukraine, most of the people would speak Ukrainian, and at schools they would teach Ukrainian and some Russian. In center of Ukraine, they would speak both, and sometimes they say that they almost mix these two languages. And then east and south of Ukraine, most of them would speak Russian, knowing Ukraine or understanding, but their language would be Russian language. So it's one thing. The second thing which I mentioned here is that it was divided even before this war into west, center, and south. And the Ukraine for a very long time could not really make their mind. Should we be part of Europe? I mean, European Union, or we should be part of the former Soviet Union, because there is, yes, former Soviet Union, and we should be part of that. And depending on presidents, because we had some in Ukraine, there were some presidents that were really just the president sent from Russia, we could say. Of course, they were more pro-Russians. The others were more pro-Westerners, and always in Ukraine inside there was this fight among themselves, in a sense, maybe not fight as a war, but political, cultural, and economical even fight in between the regions. And it's why probably also what was easier for Russia to start this war, because the Kremlin, the Putin and his team was told that it will be easy to enter the Ukraine, and even it will be easy to conquer the Kiev just in a few days. Everything was supposed to be prepared, and I speak about it because I met people on the living on the main road, which was going leading to Kiev, and when the Russian forces were coming from the north to come to Kiev, and they were sharing stories what they could see, and what they've seen is that they were not Russian troops ready to fight. They were Russian troops who were coming, almost waiting for people in town to welcome them. And they were not heavy troops. They were troops to come, celebrating. The same was in Kharkiv, in the east part of Ukraine. They were, we could say, almost 100% sure that they will come just in a couple of days, enter the city, and just establish their leadership in the city. And they were very surprised that it did not happen. So it's what happened in the first days of in Ukraine, and this surprise helped Ukraine to stand strong and probably to stand for this all this year. And so in August we went first time to Kiev and to visit also Kharkiv to see what's happening. So we saw the center. We traveled through the west of Ukraine by car, by train first, because we didn't want to go by car because we didn't know how safe it is. So we went by train with other Ukrainians, went through west to the center, from Lviv to center to Kiev, from Kiev to Kharkiv. Met some people there, Ukrainian organizations who already been helping their own people, and we saw what was going on. Then when we came back, we made this decision, and it's number 4. If we could see the slide number 4, it's we made a decision to help people in the east of Ukraine because they are in the biggest need, and it's why we were traveling to the east part of Ukraine. And on the picture we could see that. I don't know if you're still there, because I've lost you and I've lost the slide, so I'm not sure. Can you tell me, Tim, if we are still on?
Can you hear me now?
Ah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I have the slide. I just
Okay.
need to get there. Give me a moment here.
No problem.
Okay. Is that this? No, that's not the slide you wanted. I think you wanted this slide.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay.
Lower, number 4. Yeah, we have technical issues.
Yes. Number 4.
Hmm.
Okay. There we go. Can you see that now?
Yeah, small, but yes.
Okay. Let me. I'm gonna go do something different here and make this. I'm gonna get myself out of here and let you talk. Okay.
Mhm. What do you think? Maybe we should cut it in half and maybe we could continue later on this. What do you think? I can't hear you now.
Zbyshek, you can hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry about that. Again, this is the first time I've used this particular software with,
no, it's good.
so bear with me. I
No
apologize.
problem.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. What we can do is you and I will arrange a time that's convenient for both of us, and we'll pick up where we left off.
Hmm.
Because there's some extraordinary. I mean, I went through your slides, Bishop, and I was just so moved by
Yeah,
what I saw. And like you said to me last night when we talked, you said it's worse than the
yeah,
news shows it.
yeah, I
And it
agree.
is. It is. I could see it in the pictures, and my heart just goes, there's later on in his slides, he's got these people receiving little heaters. We've got one just like it in our guest room.
Yeah,
We've got one just like it. Is it battery powered or electric?
electric. Yeah,
Okay.
it's electric.
So so they have to have electricity to run it.
They have sometimes. Yeah,
And yeah, well, I know when I lived in Kazakhstan, we had times where we didn't have electricity. So,
exactly.
but so I can only imagine what they're going through. But Zbyszek, I think that would be a great idea. And I really thank you for your patience with my technical issues.
Now
Bear with
it's
me.
good.
I'll get better the next time, I promise. I
No,
just have to learn how to toggle back and forth
okay.
between the PowerPoint.
No, but
Um,
especially that it will take us probably another 45 minutes and it will be
no, and I think that's important that we go through it uh, the way that
we'll
you would want to go through it, which is,
yeah.
you know,
Mhm,
carefully, because these are people, these are human beings. They're not. This isn't like a news. We're not doing a news program here where we're trying to market something and get to the commercial. We're
mhm,
talking about human beings. We're
mhm,
talking about brothers and sisters in Christ in some cases, and
mhm.
we're talking about human beings. Though it doesn't matter. They're human beings, and we're called as Christians to help people in need. That was always what Jesus was up to, right?
Yeah.
And we're asked to open up our hearts, and we should give, and we should not ignore. And I'm totally into taking our time, Spishik, through this. So why don't I say goodbye to you? And what time is it over there? 8, almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. Yeah,
So
it's
we
good.
need we need to let you go to sleep now. Just to end it in an up note, Spishik. Uh, Not that I'm making light of anything here, but I'm going to show you something that only old people would know about, and I'm going to see if you can guess
Okay.
what it
What is
is. Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Now, what are these for, Spishik?
Yeah, I can see. What? Why? Why? Ah,
Well, I
okay.
want to know, Spishik. How old are you now? Would you admit line how old you are?
Yeah, I'm half century.
Okay, so I'm 12 years old. I can't believe I'm 12 years older than you.
I don't
You're
know.
50? You just turned 50?
Oh, yeah, I
Okay.
turned 50 if I remember a couple of
Okay.
years ago.
All right. The only thing I see is that you have glasses now,
Yeah,
you have a full beard, and you have maybe a little less hair. But then again,
yeah,
look at me.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
we're
yeah.
both the same. Um, I always remember Spishik as this buff. Look, I always thought you lifted weights or something. You just look like a buff guy. And you were a pretty good basketball player, even though we played on that bad court that was crooked. That was that was a comedy in and of itself.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
but so, have you had to use these yet, Spishik?
No, but I think carrying on my grandchild, I will start to need to have that in the
Well,
evening.
between having to bump along in a old
Yeah,
car in a war zone and then carrying
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
grandchild. What's your grandchild's name, by the way?
Teal.
Tio?
Hmm.
Tio. Okay. Well, that's great. How did they come is that a Polish name? Tio?
No, no.
Where did they get
It's an
Tio?
English name. New English name.
Okay. You know what's interesting? My grandkids, they're going back to old names. Like
Oh, okay.
I have a granddaughter named Winnie. I
Oh,
have a grandson named Hugo. I have another granddaughter, and the one that's on the way is going to be named Opal.
wow.
And
Okay.
then the other granddaughter, who's just over one, is Agnes. They're all old. They're coming back to the old
Okay.
names, you know. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah, the icy patch, like Shaquille O'Neal
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
advertises. I put this on all the time because I'm bending over doing yard work, Zbyszek. You
See
got to
me.
get these. They
Okay.
release this magical potion in your back. Okay, now I moved from a wet climate. You've been to Oregon, Zbyszek. You know how
Yeah.
wet it is there. Oh, this is called bloody knuckles. Do you know what that's for?
No, tell me.
Well, that's because if you're in a dry climate, and of course, as you grow older, Zbyszek, you're
Oh,
going to
okay.
find out that your skin gets thinner and thinner, and so
Hmm.
you need help. So bloody knuckles is what boxers put on their knuckles. It's
Okay.
actually boxers use this, but it's a hand cream, and here in Northwest Arkansas, it's very very dry. We don't get it does rain like today. We had a lot of lightning and thunder and a
Oh, okay.
downpour, but I discovered that my fingers started cracking and stinging, and I thought,
Seriously.
what the heck is going on here? Well, I'm no longer in a wet climate. I'm in a dry climate. So
Yeah.
I bought this stuff, and this guy down at Walmart said, "Oh,
This is
I swear by bloody knuckles, you got to buy this. This is good stuff. That's good stuff, boy.
okay.
While you're out hunting your squirrel for your
Yeah.
dinner, make
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
you rub some of this on your."
Oh, okay.
So I
Cool.
don't bloody knuckles. And then finally, one other thing. I was in a bike accident. I don't think I ever told you this, Bishop, but I got hit by a car on my bicycle, and I
Hmm.
had a pretty significant head injury. Fortunately, I was wearing a helmet; otherwise, I'd be dead.
Oh.
And I had some bleeding
Hmm.
in my brain, not in the space between the skull and the brain. It was a little dangerous, and but I fell backwards and I hit my tailbone on the street, and I
Ooh.
couldn't sit. I couldn't sit for the longest time without the help of a special seat pillow. And I discovered this stuff. It's called BioFreeze, and
Hmm.
you rub it wherever you're sore, but you
Hmm.
you want to be careful. You don't want to rub it in. Let's just say you don't want to rub it in tender places of your body because it would hurt badly. It'd be like Tabasco sauce where you don't want
Oh.
Tabasco sauce to be,
Okay.
that kind
Then,
of thing.
yeah. Yeah.
So, but I'm starting to get problems in my joints, Spishik.
Really.
And right, yeah. And my grandmother used to tell me, I used to come up behind her. My grandmother was a Norwegian because that's my
Hmm.
side of the family. And her name was Sophie, just like your daughter. Her
Hmm.
name was
Hmm.
Sophie. Her maiden name was Strand. And I said, Grandma Sophie, why are you drinking that cranberry and cod liver oil? And she said, Tim, it's for my arthritis.
Oh.
And now I understand because I bought cod liver oil. It came from Iceland. I got it on Amazon, and I am now the guy mixing it with my cranberry juice. But I discovered that this works. This works well too. It's not from Iceland, and it's not from Norway. It does
Okay.
not taste. It does not smell like cod liver oil either. Um,
That's
but
good.
you this is what Tim does at night, Spishik. I
Hmm.
rub it on my
Hmm.
joint, and so I'm telling you this, Spishik, because I respect you. You're working hard in these war zones, but I
Hmm.
got to tell you, you are getting older, and you are
Okay.
mortal after all.
Mm.
So between this and the bloody knuckles
It's good, yeah.
and the icy patch, or I get the
Mm.
generic
No,
at
it's good. Mm.
trust
I,
me.
I just use, I just use more kind of Eastern ways, and
I
I
understand.
used to pee to the jar and then put it on the joints.
You peed in the jar. Yeah, that works. Hey, that I
Warms it up.
and as you get older, you can generate more pee.
Yeah.
I don't, that's
And
true.
then you sleep by yourself in the room. Doesn't matter how many people wanted to sleep there.
Exactly. And you probably could pee so much at this age that you could market it,
Or
you'd have
so often.
yeah. Well, I'm actually getting some elderberries. Do you know what elderberries are? I don't know how you say elderberries in,
I have
they're
no clue.
little berries
Okay.
that I don't know. I want to say maybe they call it smetana. What's smetana?
No, it's not.
No, is that stuff? That's like
But
sour
it's a
cream.
sour cream.
Okay. No, dvorek is curds, right? I think we
No,
would say
it's
curds.
cheese. It's cottage cheese.
Uh,
Cottage cheese.
okay, there's a berry that's dark black,
Mhm.
and if their berries are red or green, they have cyanide in them, like apple seeds have them in.
Mhm.
Anyway, the elderberry makes a very nice wine or a syrup,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people say if you take a teaspoonful of the syrup every day, it will take care of like you won't catch the flu
Okay.
or grippe,
Sounds good.
as you would call it. У меня грипп сегодня. Очень болит. So I'm getting these elderberries today in the mail, and I'm going to plant them outside because I want to have some medicinal.
Good
Uh,
idea.
things.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call elderberries in Russian or Polish. I'm sure you.
Smarodina in Russian. Smarodina.
That's it. That I was trying to find that word, and that's
Yeah,
why I said
very
smetana,
good.
because every morning I remember Молоко, сметана, дворик. Молоко,
Yeah. Yeah.
smetana, dvorek. You see, if you don't know this sound, every
Yeah.
person living in an apartment in the former Soviet Union hears this sound because the person with the big milk truck comes and parks in the square in the middle of
Mhm.
your apartments are like in a box, right? And in the
Mhm.
middle there's a square, usually a playground or maybe a kindergarten or something. And they park the truck early in the morning and the person comes out to sell the milk. And we used to send our son Chris down the urine smelling elevator and he would go down. And I know we have blind spots too. So I know we have blind spots. But he would go down and with the little fiddler on the roof metal can,
Yeah.
and he would get the Moloko. But smetana was also sold. That's like sour cream, right?
Mhm.
And then Dvorak is like we would say curds, like kind of cottage cheese, I
Yeah.
guess, something like that. So
These
anyway,
days, these days in Ukraine, and because you really painted a nice picture of how people live in there with these buildings. These days in the morning they don't shout smetana and tvorog because most of the days they have the alarm because the rockets may come. So it's
oh,
so
Zbyshek,
I'm saying that because you can now in place it. You know, when your son was coming
yes,
down or you were looking
I
through the
know.
window,
I told Sabrina the other
people don't
day,
do
if
that
you,
now.
I
Yeah.
Zbyszek knows my wife's name is Sabrina, and I think most people on Facebook or when I do this video will know. I turned to her the other day after talking to you, and
Mhm.
I said, Sabrina, I'm so thankful that we're not at war. Here we are. She was out trimming some bushes,
Mhm.
and I was out doing some yard work. And I just thought, we take it for granted that we live at peace, in peace, that
Mm.
we can stand out here. I'm not even thinking about anybody invading me or messing with my life. I'm not
Mm.
even thinking about that. I'm just thinking about, oh, I got to get some fertilizer. Oh, I got to go to Walmart. Oh,
Yeah, it's
I
good.
think I'll
Yeah,
get a donut.
and
Oh,
it's
maybe
good.
I'll drink an IPA. Maybe I'll have a glass of wine. Maybe, oh, what am I going to watch for TV tonight? And you, after talking to you, I realized
No,
what
it can change overnight.
I know. And
With
Zbyszek,
today's technology, it may change overnight.
well, and I look at our country and I think, why, God? Why have you allowed our country not to be
Mm.
judged? Because there's so many things that our country has done that deserves judgment. And I
Mm.
say that as an American. I mean, It just is. It's just true, you know?
Mhm.
And there's no rhyme or reason for who gets a war and who
Yeah,
doesn't. I mean, you
yeah.
know, who knows what's around the corner, right? I mean, we could, with COVID, we learned, hey, none of us are immune. None of
Mm,
us are immune from danger.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah.
anyway,
Good,
hey,
good.
Zbyszek, I want you to get
Great.
some beauty
Okay.
rest. Remember the biofreeze if you get sore tonight,
It's good. I will
and
look for it.
you know,
Mhm.
the bloody knuckles in case you get in some
Excellent.
fisticuffs on the streets. You know, you might have to fight off some people trying to steal those heaters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good.
Yeah. So anyway, but I will talk to you. Let's email one another, and
Will do. Yeah.
we'll come
Excellent.
up with another one. And what I'll do with this
We'll have
particular,
another hour session. Yeah.
yeah, and what I'll do is I'll probably break this episode up into a couple
Mhm.
parts, and then
Sure.
I'll put it on my YouTube channel so that I can keep
Excellent.
it'll always be there, and you can share it, and we can share it with other people. And
Excellent.
let's keep the ball rolling. Let's keep people aware, because
Yeah.
a lot of people in America depend on Tucker Carlson and CNN and to give them the scoop on the Ukraine. But you're there. You're there all the time. You know what's going on. You're on the ground.
Mhm.
And I know you
No.
well enough as a straight shooting
Good.
Pole that you're going to
Yeah.
tell us the truth. You're not going to make up a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you're
It's
going to tell us the
not
truth.
easy. Yeah. I tell the stories that I hear and I see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the stories are true.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much for the evening.
Okay, Zbyszek, you take care and enjoy that grandchild of yours. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
It's good.
blessing.
We'll have a
It's a
nice
blessing.
evening. Yeah.
Okay. Bye bye. Okay.
Bye.
Well, I hope you found that to be, uh, fascinating. I know I did. And I do plan to, cut things down, do some editing and so forth. I did make one promise though to those of you from Kazakhstan, and I haven't forgotten. So I'm going to do that right now. I lost my guitar pick, so if you'll bear with me here. Oh, there it is. Okay, I did promise those of you who are from Kazakhstan that I would. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying, when I lived in Kazakhstan, when Zbyszek was there, um, we had quite a dilemma because we were living in Almaty, and you know that most of the people on the streets were still speaking Russian, even though they were Kazakhs. And I wanted to learn Kazakh because I knew that was the way into a Kazakh's heart, was through their language, and it was a way of showing value to the culture. So I started learning Kazakh, but then I realized if I'm going to live in Almaty, I've got to know Russian, man, because I got to get around, catch the taxi, shop at the Zaloni Bazaar, go out to the Barrel Holka, which is like a swap meet thing on the edge of the city, for those of you who don't know. But I did learn this song, and please don't laugh. At least don't show me that you're laughing at my Kazakh. But it's a song that should be fairly familiar to most people. And I'll just end with this, and then I'll stop. Okay, here we go. Biz bugüne, biz bugüne kuday jaratkan, kuday jaratkan. Şatanamız oynap, kulimiz. Biz bugüne kuday jaratkan. Şatanamız oynap, kulimiz. Biz bugüne kuday jaratkan. All right, here we go. English. This is the day that the Lord has made, I will rejoice and be glad in it, This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. Well, I wish all of you well, and I wish and hope that all of us will just take some time and reflect on what an amazing day that we can have when we know the Lord. And even though our lives can be riddled with trouble, either through whatever, depression, or whatever could be happening, it, if we do know the Lord, we do know that he is in control ultimately of all things, even when it seems like chaos is running amok. And this picture behind me, this guy coming on the white horse, if you read Revelation, you'll know exactly the significance of this wonderful day that lies ahead, when the last trumpet will sound. See that angel up there? When the last trumpet will sound, God will dispatch his son, his installed king, his Messiah, the Christ. And he's coming to this earth, and he is gonna, well, let's just say he's not going to come as a mild, meek little baby. He's going to come as a warrior, and he is going to wrest control of what Paul calls this present evil age from the evil one, and bring our earth back to its, what's supposed to be its original purpose, where people of God's people are living in peace. They have a land allotment, and God is among them. I mean, what more do you want? God living amongst us in Edenic state, even better, because it's going to be filled with redeemed people who look at their Savior's hands and side and realize, if not for that sacrifice, we would have no hope. And so I'll end on that note, and I wish all of you well as you continue your week, and have a great weekend. And I'll get back to you on when Zbyshek and I will continue this discussion.